Hello.
Hello, Chair.
Hello.
Yes, Chairperson, I have just accepted Deputy Minister Muswale in the meeting. Maybe in the meantime, you can greet her, and thereafter you can take over and start your meeting, Chairperson, together with the co-chairperson, Matilda.
Okay, morning.
Thank you, and morning, Honorable Chair.
Morning, and you're welcome. Thank you for availing yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. Lubaba, the treasurer who's here? I hope Sepiso is here.
Morning, DM. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Chair. I'm okay.
Okay.
Yourself?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Good morning, DM.
Morning, leadership.
How are you,
Morning.
Papa?
No, can't complain. I'm okay. It's
Okay.
good to be in your company again.
Thanks, Mom.
All right, thank you.
Chairperson Matango, good morning.
Good morning, Mama.
Unjani, Mama.
I'm good, Mama. I'm good.
Hey, uzositshela ngeyimali ke namhlanje wena.
Mina ngitshela ukuthi nizisephi le mali enginikeza zona.
Leyimali esale siziphasisa la.
Yeah. How are you, my baby?
Hello, Mama. You look so beautiful, Mama.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mama.
Good morning, Mama. I flew, Mama. I will soldier on, Mama.
Yes. Deputy Chief Whip.
Oh, Deputy one. Oh, yes. Say that
Deputy
again.
Chief Whip.
Sorry, honorable members. Honorable Matlangu, it's 9:03. I just want to check if ever what time will you want to start? We are playing a promo now.
Okay.
I think it's about a minute or so. And if Dr. Jankit is going to speak, can he please quickly reveal his video? I'll call him and talk to him when you start, ma'am.
Okay, Lubabalo. how are we? Can we start?
Yes, Chairperson, we can start. Yes, Chair, we can start. So far, I was checking the list of the members. We have about 6 that I've just noted before you called me. The Deputy Minister has joined the meeting. Colleagues from National Treasury they have joined the meeting. So we can start, Chairperson. Thereafter, I'll check other members in the background. Chair. Over to you, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you. Just do that. Honorable members, Deputy Minister, media, our stakeholders, Treasury, I understand you're also here. A very good morning to you all. You're welcome into this meeting. We are actually having a joint committee meeting, Select Committee on Appropriation and Select Committee on Public Enterprise and Communication, led by Honorable Chairperson Matibe. We will together be steering this ship for the better part of the morning. And thereafter, appropriation will continue with their business, and they will also go and continue with their business. So there's only one item that we will be focusing on, the two of us. Honorable members, in our last meeting of the 2nd of June, after having been briefed by the National Treasury, that's last week, Wednesday, and when we received that presentation regarding an appropriated 10.8 billion, I hope members are listening, because I'm trying to assist so that we don't mix issues. These bills, we don't mix them. So there was an issue of the 10.8 billion rands that was raised to South African Airways, SOC Ltd, which requests for approval for a transfer of 2.7 billion. So is the 2.7 billion rands of the 10.8 billion, which was appropriated and approved previous year in 2018. To the SAA subsidiaries, honorable members, that is what we are going to focus on. And the SAA subsidiaries are 1.663 billion to SAA Technical SOC Ltd, 819 million rands to Mango Airline SOC Ltd, and 218 million to Air Chefs SOC Ltd. Especially the reason for inviting you, Honorable Matibe, and your team and the DM is to ensure that as the NCOP sector committee, because we decided that we don't want to call the department on our own, we must involve you as our sector committee, is to have the same information as ourselves, as oversight bodies. Honorable members, as you resolved, the members of the appropriations, as you resolved, the department has been invited to brief us on the 10.8 billion rands, and importantly, which was allocated in 2018, in the terms and conditions associated with that allocation. You know how much we were serious, and we were pushing for the terms and conditions and not just want to approve those allocations without conditions attached to them. So, honorable members, most importantly, again, we thought it is prudent to get an understanding of how the 2.7 billion rands will be spent by the 3 SAA subsidiaries. Honorable Matibe, I would like to invite you as the chairperson of this committee that we have invited our sister committee to have a few words on behalf of the committee. And thereafter, we will check with both secretaries or secretariat for both committees, Lubabalo and Madia. And then we'll have to proceed afterwards. Honorable members, this is not part of the bill that we are dealing with, the appropriations bill. I know we are appropriations bill, and to the other one is appropriation bill. So I will allow the co-chairperson to have few words before we hand over to the secretariat to give us apologies if there are any.
Thank you very much, co-chair and the chair of Select Committee on Appropriations. Greetings to honorable members, greetings to the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprise, Honorable Maswale, as well as the department and the media. We, as a Select Committee on Public Enterprise, we appreciate Chair's invitation to have a joint meeting with the Select Committee on Appropriations. We view our invitation to partake in this process as an exemplary act of efficiency that is geared towards strengthening Parliament oversight function. And we having said that, we are ready to ensure that whatever money appropriated to our entities and department as the Select Committee on Public Enterprise will do our part in terms of making sure that we indeed play our oversight role, ensuring that the money that is appropriated is used efficiently in compliance with legislations and in terms in line with the terms and conditions that have been put forward. SAA chairperson is one of the key entities that we have. It leverages the bilateral and multilateral platforms and partnerships and trade partnerships. It also assists in terms of contributing to the tourism sector in our country, which contributes a lot to the GDP of our country. So we are here, Chairperson, and I'm hoping, honorable members, we only received one apology from the public enterprise, the whole team of public enterprise, of honorable members, as well as the staff. We are here to partake in this discussion to assist. Thank you very much.
You are leading a good team. It's good that we are all here. Before I allow the minister, the deputy minister, to have a bite on the issue or to give us an overview, and I think he understands why we called this sector department, so that we don't call you all over around. I see a hand of Honorable Ryder. I don't know, Honorable Ryder, if you want to speak before the minister, before we start with the meeting, or you want to talk on procedural matters. Honorable Ryder.
Chairperson, good morning, and good morning, colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, Chair, it's a question of clarity, because last week during our appropriations meeting, we discussed the appropriation that had been given specifically to DPE, Department of Public Enterprises, because we said that we wanted to make sure that the funds were being used in the correct manner. Specifically, as well was mentioned, it was quite a broad comment that I made, and you supported, I believe, Chairperson. And specifically, the point that I was asking was around the SAA business rescue money, and the fact that there'd been funds appropriated, and we wanted to make sure that those funds had been properly used and were well accounted for, especially in light of the comment that there are salaries that remained outstanding, etc. Now, just based on your introduction this morning, the scope that you've given to today's meeting is not quite the same as that. And are we limiting ourselves today to just the money that's going to the subsidiaries, or are we having a broader discussion around all of the appropriation and whether it's been used adequately? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Honorable Ryder, and your advice that you open your video, please, when you speak. That's the request from the communications team. Honorable Ryder, the better part of the morning, we are going to deal with that item where we will be together jointly with our select committee from Department of Enterprise and Communications. But then thereafter, we will be dealing with the Appropriations Bill and the Special Appropriations Bill. Remember this question when we ask it, this clarity on the conditional grants that were put in place. Treasury, I think specifically it was Tsepiso who dealt with it. They couldn't, or they did respond to it, but they felt that maybe it would be better for you to call the relevant department who is responsible in spending this money to come and account to you. And we agreed as a committee that we would like to call the department to come here, but also involved the sister select committee, so that we are on the same understanding. According to me, there's nothing different from what you're saying. Are you fine, Honorable Ryder? Can we go on?
Yeah, I think so, Chair. Let's see how the meeting unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable DM.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Greetings to the honorable members of the joint committees. We are really very pleased to have the opportunity to put across from the departmental perspective how the funds that were requested were to be utilized, for what purpose, as we know that the SAA, the broad family, include some of the subsidiaries that were equally impacted by the developments around SAA, but also the developments to do with the pandemic. Air chefs, as but one, had been impacted negatively, but was also part of the proposed funding request that was made. So was South African Airways Technical, which provides a very critical service insofar as the airworthiness of the aircraft from all the flights that we take off from whatever direction. SA Mango as well had been somewhat impacted, and they were then considered to be part of overall rescue plan, so to speak. We have prepared, the Acting Director General is going to lead the presentation on the part of the department in laying bare the facts as we know them and how we have experienced them. Yes, we've had a period in which the entity was under the business rescue, and the practitioners had a predominant say and account insofar as the operations, the implementation of the plan, etc. But where we are now, we can put across for purposes of the committee what we have had in mind all the time, and the compliance thereof. So, Chair, without much ado, at the right time, the Acting Director General, Mr. Makobe, Advocate Makobe, is going to lead the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TM. I think this is the right time that we get the presentation from the DG. Thank you very much. We appreciate your overview. DG.
Thank you, Chairperson, and the honorable members of the committee. We will be then taking you through the presentation. We will move to the second slide. The presentation will deal with 5 issues. The first issue is the business rescue plan provisions on subsidiaries. We will then look at the total funding for SAA and the subsidiaries. We will look at the funding requirements of subsidiaries. And point 4, we will look at the actual expenditure of the money that has been transferred to SAA. And then fifthly, we'll look at the compliance with the appropriation conditions. SAA was placed under business rescue on 5 December 2019 and exited the business rescue process on 30 April 2021. The business rescue practitioners filed what is called a notice of substantial implementation, which is what is required in terms of the Companies Act to exit a business from a business rescue process. The subsidiaries of SAA were not placed under business rescue. It was only SAA that was placed under business rescue. However, the placing of SAA under business rescue had a negative impact on the financial position of the subsidiaries. In actual fact, if you look at the business rescue plan, it recognizes the deteriorating financial position of subsidiaries and indicates that the success of the business rescue plan is dependent on the financial viability of subsidiaries. The business rescue plan further states that the capitalization of subsidiaries, which is the process that we assist with now, is critical to ensure that they are financially stable post the implementation of the business rescue plan.
Can you close the mic, please? Members, participants, can you close your mics, please? Just open your videos. Only the person on the platform can open the mic, please. Let's cooperate on that order. Okay, DG, sorry about that, you can continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. If we move to slide 4, it looks at the total funding for SAA and the subsidiaries. And as you can see from the table, 10.5 billion that was approved for the funding of the restructuring of SAA includes the 2.7 billion for the recapitalization of subsidiaries. We will, at the later slide, explain to you how this money was spent and which money still needs to be spent on the appropriated 10.5 billion. But safe to say now that the 10.5 billion included the 2.7 billion for the subsidiaries. If we move to slide 5, we are looking at the funding requirements of the subsidiaries and how this amount of 2.7 billion will be utilized. It is important to indicate at this stage that the interim board of SAA is undertaking a process of restructuring of the subsidiaries. And of course, such restructuring will require funding as in any other restructuring. If we start with the South African Airways Technical, there are operational issues there. SAAT is not able to procure spares in advance, and that makes it very difficult, chairpersons, for SAAT to do maintenance work that it is required to do. They also have financial issues because there is a decline in revenue, and as a result, there is insufficient funds to cover fixed monthly costs. And also, SAT has not been able to pay full salaries. They've been paying salaries partially. So the 1.6 billion that has been allocated to SAT will be used for the restructuring of SAT and the right-sizing of the business, because the business needs to be right-sized, and it also serves as a working capital for SAT. If we move to Mango, there is also operational issues there, but also it's important to indicate that Mango has not been immune to the impact of COVID-19, as COVID-19 has impacted generally the aviation industry. And the market share of Mango has been impacted as a result of COVID-19, but there's also some operational inefficiencies. And I think that is really caused mainly by having aircraft on the ground as opposed to have it on the air. And it's also as a result of the rippling effect of the challenges that SAAT has, because it was not able to do technical work on some of the Mango aircrafts. The financial issues of Mango is inability to meet their critical payments. So most of the funding really that is required in Mango is to pay for the accumulated debt. But this amount that has been allocated will assist with the restructuring of Mango and also for the working capital of Mango to enable it to fly. But also it's important to indicate that the board is doing some work on the future sustainability of Mango to make sure that going forward, it is a viable business. If we move to the next slide, we are then dealing with air chefs. As the DM has indicated, air chefs have not been able to provide any service because of the following reasons. The majority of the business of air chefs comes from SAA. And as we all know, SAA has not been operating for quite a while. So as a result, air chefs was not able to get any business or provide any service. But furthermore, the COVID regulations on serving of meals in flight has negatively affected the business of air chefs. So as a result, new customers were lost, but also that was exacerbated by the fact that there are liquidity challenges at air chefs. So there has been continued losses, and as revenue that air chefs has is not able to suffer to cover costs. Now the way forward there is that the amount that has been allocated will assist in the restructuring of air chefs, and the board of SAA is finalizing a restructuring plan for air chefs. So chairpersons, as I indicated earlier, the interim board is finalizing the process of restructuring of the subsidiaries, and the finalization of the processing of the 2.7 billion that we are discussing this morning for subsidiaries will greatly assist in that regard. If we move to the next slide, as Honorable Day was Ryder was saying, how was the money that has been transferred to SAA utilized? We are looking at the 7.8 billion that has been transferred to SAA out of the 10.5 billion that has been approved, and what has been utilized and what has not been utilized. Now, out of the 7.8 billion that has been transferred to SAA, the following amounts were utilized to date. The 2 billion was used to pay for the voluntary severance packages of the employees and also to pay their outstanding salaries. It was only 3 months outstanding salaries that was paid based on the settlement that was reached with the employees. An amount of 632 million was paid to the post-commitment creditors, and an amount of 800 million was paid for the unflown ticket liability. But that was just a part payment, as the rest of the payments still needs to be made. Now, the balance of 4.4 billion is in SAA's account, but will be used for the following. 2 million will be used for the working capital when SAA resumes its operations. 1.4 billion will be used for the payment of the balance of the unflown ticket liability. As I had indicated, that 800 million has been paid for that in that regard, but then the balance will still need to be paid. And then 0.8 billion has been ring-fenced for outstanding salaries for the pilots pending the court action. The pilots have taken this matter to court. We have settled 3 months of outstanding salaries with other employees, but the pilots wants the full payment of the outstanding salaries. So this money has been ring-fenced pending what the court decides on this matter. And it will also be used for the voluntary severance packages of the pilots once an agreement is reached with the pilots in that regard. There was also a cost saving of about 200 million for the payment of post-commencement creditors, which amount will be used for the working capital. If we move to slide 8, which is the conditions of the appropriations, the conditions are as follows: that funding should be utilized only for the settlement of guaranteed debt.
The technician is going to be.
Can somebody's mic is on once more, I think for the last time, please close your mics, mute your mics.
And indeed, that money will be used for that. And secondly, the condition was that the unutilized guarantees should be reduced and no additional guarantee funding should be raised post the business rescue process. The third condition was that the department must report to Cabinet on the benefits to the South African economy of the continued government ownership of the airlines. And fourthly, that during the business rescue of SAA, the following must be provided: the bi-weekly updates on the implementation of the business rescue plan, progress on securing a strategic equity partner, how the business rescue funds will be utilized, and also any updates on the employees related matters. The last conditions was that for the period after the business rescue process, SAA should provide monthly updates. Now we look at the last slide on how those conditions were met. Indeed, the first issue, SAA will utilize funds only for the settlement of the guaranteed debt and interest as soon as the funds are dispersed, so that condition will be met. And the unutilized guarantees will be reduced and no additional guarantee funding will be raised post the business rescue process. With regard to condition number 3, the department has been keeping Cabinet informed on all matters relating to SAA, and we continue to do so with regard to also the future of SAA and also getting a strategic equity partner thereof. I'll just give an update towards the end on that process for an SEP. In line with the provisions of the Companies Act, the business rescue practitioners were providing reports to affected parties. Affected parties include the creditors and the shareholder. So there has been reports that were submitted by the business rescue practitioners with regard to the business rescue process. With regard to condition number 5, which requires a close-out report at the end of the business rescue process, that was submitted to the department, and that includes the following issues: how the funds were utilized, the breakdown of the payments that were made to the employees. As I said earlier, we settled for 3 months instead of the full outstanding salaries for the employees. So that information has been handed over, and also an update on the employees' matters, which matters includes the pilots' matters, which are before the courts. But also SAA management and the board are busy trying to get into settlement discussions with the pilots. But the information on the forecast cash flow, revenue generation, profit and loss statement were not finalized by the business rescue practitioners, as that is dependent on the process that we are finalizing now with regard to the strategic equity partners. which will really develop the business plan for the new airline. But the interim board then will work together with whoever the strategic equity partner will be. If I may, Chairperson, move to the sixth condition, which said SAA should provide performance information to the Department of National Treasury. We will revive the monthly meetings that we used to have between National Treasury Department and SAA, so that we make sure that we keep our eye on the ball with regard to the performance of SAA. Now, with regard to the strategic equity partner process, Chairpersons, let me report that the department is in final discussions with the strategic equity partner. As it is normal in this kind of transactions, the parties are conducting what is called a due diligence, and the process may be finalized in the next 3 to 6 weeks. And once the process is finalized and a preferred strategic equity partner is identified, an announcement will be made in that regard. And as that process will conclude, we will indeed see a born-again SAA. Thank you, Chairpersons.
Chair, can I just plead for your indulgence, Chair? Apology.
Thank you, DM. You can do that. Thank you.
Yes, please, Chair. I think it's slide number 7. I hope also the acting DG can just go back to slide number 7. On the breakdown of the remainder of the 7.8 billion is an amount of 4.4 billion. I think there is a misstatement there, an error in stating the working capital amount, which is stated as 2 million. It should actually be 2 billion. I just wanted to register that correction, and may the DG, acting DG also confirm. I think it is a misstatement. Thank you, Chair. If Melanchthon is with me, can we just correct that?
Yes, DM is 2 billion. Yes. Yes, it's 2 billion. Yes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson.
You are muted, Chair.
My apologies, Co-Chair. To the person who was responding to or clarifying what the minister has raised, is it 2 million or 2 billion? I haven't heard you well.
It is 2 billion, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Co-Chairperson, you can take over from here. I think now we will give, I don't know if Treasury or PBO want to speak on this, or they will speak after members have raised questions.
Good morning, Chair. To the extent that there are questions for Treasury specifically, we'll deal with them again after members have spoken. Thank you, Chair.
So, no, you don't want to speak.
No, Chair, I think we've spoken a lot in the past few weeks. So we'll hold it for now and allow members to ask questions.
Okay.
Honorable
members of both committees, can you please indicate your appetite to talk or to engage, to seek clarity on the presentation, on the subject on the table, by raising your hand? I know I'm not muted. I hope members can hear me. Am I audible?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you, Chair.
The hands are already up.
Okay, can I hear whose hand is up?
We have got Honorable.
Can you see them,
Honorable
Matibe?
Yes, I can see them.
Okay.
We have got Honorable Ryder, Honorable Tane, Honorable Bibi, Honorable Ngwenya, Honorable Deloitte, Honorable Arnolds. in that order. Those
Okay.
are the, and Honorable Okam and Honorable Mudisi.
Okay, Honorable Ryder, Honorable Mletsane, Honorable Bibi, Honorable and
Chairperson, Honorable Ryder, you
can you
can
continue then?
start.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good. Thanks for the presentation. Yes, I know we're just limiting ourselves today to SAA, but that's fine. That I think is the most pressing of the matters that we are asked to deal with. So thank you. And I think the most important slide to me certainly is the one that details that 4.4 billion rand remains in the bank account of SAA. Which I guess is good news, because it means that the money is still available to be spent where it's supposed to be spent. I do have some questions around the processes and the way forward from here. So I'm just going to kick off, and certainly in terms of the amount that's been ring-fenced for outstanding salaries, the impression one gets from the media is that it's not only the pilots that have funding outstanding, their salaries outstanding, the cabin crew members as well that are sitting with a problem. So the question is that 0.8 billion sufficient? Now, you've told us that there's a court case pending. If you can perhaps give us a little bit of detail around that court case. I'm not an expert on the matter, and perhaps an indication as well of when we are hoping to get finality on it. Because at the same time, while you said there's a court case, you also said that there's discussions around a settlement, which I'd be most interested to hear. Because frankly, you know, reading in the newspapers about government owing its employees money, and employees of the state going hungry, and people contemplating or actually committing suicide is very concerning for me as someone who has oversight over government. It really, it's a difficult thing to hear that government is not really applying its own laws, and where it is applying its own laws, it's applying them in a way that's not necessarily in the spirit of those laws. I mean, we've come out of decades, if not centuries, of exploitation. If we continue the exploitation of employees and staff members as government, then there's a serious problem. So I'm quite concerned to hear about the employees and the situation that they're going to find themselves in. How quickly can we expect to get a resolution to this so that we can stop hearing about these problems and issues? You know, is there a final settlement package planned? We hear that there's a new SIA that's about to take off. You know, what is it going to look like? Are we expecting more of the existing employees to receive letters of offer for retrenchment packages? Just tell us, please, what the future is for the employees. The working capital of 2 billion, you know, it's only 1.8 billion above what the slide said, but just a small error. Yeah, the question is, what all does that deal with? You know, is that going to be sufficient to get SIA back off the ground? And the question again comes to the fact that there's a lot of licensing issues of pilots, of planes, of equipment, etc. You know, all of those licenses up to date? Have they been they've been kept current throughout? And if they haven't been, you know, how difficult will it be to get those licenses back up and running? And is that 2 billion sufficient to get the new SIA off the ground and to get it to a point where it is self-sustainable? So yeah, because we really need to start knowing whether we're going to be faced with further appropriations going forward. The unflown tickets, 1.4 billion. I'm a bit disappointed to see that number, because I see in the top section of that particular slide, unflown ticket liability paid to date is 800 million. and there's 1.4 billion still outstanding. So the question is, are those still for future dated flights, or are we sitting holding on to people's money, members of the public who've bought tickets in good faith? Are we sitting on their money and not paying them out, keeping money out of an economy that desperately needs it at the moment, and probably unfairly, because if those flight dates are passed already, those people have had to make other arrangements or have had to cancel their arrangements, and therefore I'm sure there would have been some sort of detrimental effect. So yeah, I think you've given us a lot of good information today, and I really want to appreciate the fact that we've come with that. My next question is for Treasury, and it relates back to when we had a presentation from Treasury about a year ago, or a bit more than a year ago, perhaps, probably 18 months ago, before Mr. Dorota took over, when there was a feeling that Eskom was living not in the real world and not really accepting the fact of their problematic situation. I'd just like to hear from Treasury, has SAA been compliant with what you've given them? Have they been acting in reasonably good faith? Have they been doing their bit to turn themselves around as well and to cut unnecessary expenses? Is Treasury happy with the current status quo? And perhaps from Treasury's point of view, in terms of your risk assessment, what unquantified risks or quantified risks even that haven't been spoken, that haven't been voiced yet, what risks are you seeing in the short and medium term in terms of what's been presented by DPE today? Chair, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you very much.
Chairperson.
Honorable Mletsane.
Okay. Thank you, co-chairpersons. Let me acknowledge the presentation. Mine is just a clarity. If I'm not mistaken, it's slide number 7, where it talks about where it says that to date, 2 billion was paid for voluntary settlement agreement. I just want to check if they can elaborate in terms of stats that so far, how many they have went for that voluntary settlement. Thank you.
Honorable
Bibi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to DM and the team, both teams, and also greetings to the two co-chairs and also colleagues. Chairperson, my first question will be, I just want to know if the department has been able to attract private equity investors to partner with the running of the new South African Airways to avoid too much reliance on the fiscus. My second question, Chairperson, will be, has the business rescue process been able to deal with or settle all the SAA's liabilities, including the Airbus deal that was straining SAA's financial resources? And again, Chairperson, I want to check with the DM that why we are not flying SAA currently. And again, how does this impact SAA future, and what are the discussions between the DPE and transport ministries on the international routes? Thank you very much, Chairperson. Those are my 4 questions.
Honorable Ngwenya.
Thanks very much, Chair. And thank you for the presentation. Ngibingelele naku Chairperson uMama Mahlangu and the other committee members that were joined with today. Chairperson, I would like to ask whether the 819 million earmarked for Mango will be sufficient to ensure that the airline remain afloat. Secondly, Chair, I wanted to check that will Mango be able to settle its debt liability to airport company South African Airways? Ngokufingqiwe AXA. The second question, Chair, I want to check to know whether the business rescue cost could be qualified and how much the business rescue practitioners were paid. I request a breakdown, Chairperson, of the payment paid to practitioner per line item. Practitioner that management could not do. The third question, Chair, on slide 7 and 8 only show how the 7.8 billion was used and how the remaining balance will be used. For this is no clear indication of the growth plan that will be used to establish SAA and to ensure future growth with SAA. Always rely on business rescue for survival. Last question, Chair, and I wanted to check, Chairperson, what is the status of the Voyager program and how much was paid to this program? The presentation did not address this issue of Voyager miles holders. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Dujoit.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members. Few questions have been partially covered. I want to know what is the total of the non-guaranteed debt, because the presentation only speaks to the guaranteed debt. What is the total of the non-guaranteed debt? What plans are in place, if any, to settle this debt? I noticed that you mentioned that you were speaking to creditors, but it wasn't clear if these guys were included. And before we come to the closeout report, what is the progress on the business rescue plan? Is everything up to date? Are the set goals met? Are there any challenges? If yes, could you please elaborate on that? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Arnolds.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the honorable members, and then also to the Deputy Minister and the DG and all the officials that is present. Chairperson, while we are taking note of the allocations of SAA Technical, which is 1.663 billion, Mango 819 million, AirSafes 218 million. Let me also raise my concern, because the current state of these subsidiaries needs urgent attention, because it is on the path now of collapse. So it needs urgent attention. Then, Chairperson, with regards to the 2.7 billion allocation to subsidiaries, we have heard this many of times, that we will keep our eye on the ball. But what are the processes that are in place? And I think we need to get it here also in terms of an answer, to ensure that the money is not wasted. speaking about wasted money, the 10 million paid to Mackenzie that is going to be repaid. I want to check now. It is not enough just to repay the money, but what will the consequences, further consequences be? So I need an answer also on that one. Then, Chairperson, just in terms of sustainability, talking about the new SAA and then also the turnaround plan and everything, and how will they sustain, especially now in this time of COVID-19 that we have, how will they sustain in terms of long-term sustainability, and also talking about the subsidiaries also included here? How will they sustain their operations? Then, Chairperson, one of the members have raised the issue of the business rescue process and the payments and everything. I think it was about 231 million. And then also, I think it was about 87 million to the business rescue practitioners. But I think, Chairperson, we need to get in writing the money that was spent on consultants, on lawyers, on the business rescue practitioners, the whole process. We need a detailed report as a committee also from the department so that we can have it in our possession also. Thank you, Chair. I've been covered by the other members, so I will. Thanks, Chairperson.
Honorable Okam.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Yeah, I also want to thank everybody for the presentation that was made. I have been partially covered by quite a few of my colleagues. I've actually want to just zoom in on a few very important issues. I am a pilot myself, and I know the dangers of flying without flying recently or flying enough. We saw with the flight that went to Brussels that we had certain problems, and the Civil Aviation Authority had to waiver, I think, up to 13 of the requirements for that flight, just in order for our pilots that aren't recent or aren't current on the tests to be able to undertake that flight. We know that there's a number of our pilots that are on strike, and I'll come to that in my second point. But are there anything in the budget? And this is maybe one of the most important things, that when SAA is going to fly again, that we know that our pilots are up to standard, 110% up to standard with what they need to do to transport people safely. At this stage, I will not fly SAA, just due to the fact that being a pilot myself and knowing my own shortcomings when it comes to flying, knowing that if other pilots didn't fly for more than a year, it needs to be you need to be sharp behind those instruments there. So are there anything in the budget, and are there any training programs currently going on for those pilots in order to make sure that they are recent and they are up to standard, and that it won't be necessary for CAA to waiver certain standards again in the future? My second question also comes to the salary dispute. Where are we standing currently with that? What is the situation? I understand that there's a certain portion of the pilots that belong to a union, and there's a dispute there, and other pilots are not. What is the situation there, and how are we going to ensure that we don't lose skilled pilots? We can have the best airline in the world, and we can paint it in platinum, but if the pilots that are flying those aircraft are not up to standard, then the people that fly and make use of those aircraft's lives are in danger. What are we going to do to ensure that South African Airways, once they get airborne again, has got the best trained and best recent pilots in the world? The other question that I want to ask is the whole question around privatization. We are talking about selling it to a strategic partner, or getting a strategic partner involved. Obviously, we don't know exactly who that partner is. We don't know the insides of the deal. And I don't think that either the Deputy Minister or the DG will at this stage tell us what that is, and we can leave that at that. But isn't total privatization of SAA and all its subsidiaries now on the table? Isn't that exactly what this airline need can carry on and to be a success in the future? I'm sitting with a great fear in myself that we saw what happened in the past with the management of SAA. To name Dudu Myeni, who was a delinquent director, but a few. I mean, to name one example. What is going to happen with SAA once it is not more managed? We know it's not more managed by the business rescue practitioners, but once it is fully operational and being managed by itself, shouldn't we get to a point where we give SAA over to a private entity or to private companies, not give it over, but to make a deal and privatize it and get it from there on, so that we can, sorry for my telephone, sir, so that we can really make sure that SAA is run properly and not being run as it was in the past. That is my questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I appreciate it.
Chair.
Thank you very much. You must fly SAA.
Chair.
Honorable Nana, and Honorable Nana, Honorable Mudise. I think the last one is Honorable Karim.
And Chairperson,
unless there is,
I could agree with Honorable Okam. He really looks like a pilot.
You must see me when I put up my sunglasses.
But he must fly SAA.
He's an elevator pilot, that one, Ogam. He's a pilot for elevators.
A real professional pilot. See.
No, that's fine. Honorable Nana.
Well, thank you very much, Chairman, and apologies for not switching on my video. What Honorable Okambi is not telling you, Chairman, besides the fact that he's a pilot, he actually has his own aircraft. So he might think twice before he flies SAA.
The Hawks must not.
He did not declare that flight.
So Chairman, the disadvantage of speaking last in a meeting, particularly when you are in the midst of clever minds like colleagues in the NCOP, is that some of the issues you would have wanted to raise, colleagues literally do raise all of them. And I don't really want to belabor the point. Colleagues have spoken about the business rescue practitioners. And I do recall the Minister Godan in one of the meetings we had with him as a select committee, raising some discomfort and then general performance of the rescue practitioners. But as I said, I wouldn't really want to belabor the point because colleagues have spoken on it. The other issue, which I think colleagues touched on a broad basis, and Honorable Detroit did speak about unguaranteed debt. I know that in the past, one of the issues that bedeviled our national carrier was fuel hedging. I would want to know from Treasury if we still do have such a debt which emanates from fuel hedging. If yes, is it categorized as a guaranteed or an unguaranteed debt? And if there exists such a debt, how are we going to ensure that it's being serviced if it needs to be serviced? And lastly, Chairperson, Honorable Okam did speak about the core issue that bothers FAA, which actually brought FAA to where it is today, and that chairperson is the business model of South African Airways. I can bet my bottom penny, Chairman, we will give FAA 10.8 billion rand, but if it's business as usual, but if FAA continues in the same trajectory, if a business, we are once again throwing close to 11 billion of taxpayers' money into a dark pit, endless pit. Now, what I would want to check from National Treasury, what checks and balances are in place to ensure that, one, the reputational harm, I know this is pretty much an operational question, but I need to ask it. One, the reputational harm that has been caused by this saga to brand FAA. How is that? Is it a priority that it has to be repaired? Two, will FAA still be flying under the banner FAA? I would like to stop at that, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nana, Honorable Dise, and then Honorable Karim. Do we still have any other hand, colleagues, before I hand over back to my co-chair, Honorable Mukiva? Honorable Ryder, are you back again? I see your hand, or was it?
Honorable Ryder has a question on the chat.
Yeah, just if I can just put voice to it, Chair, if you don't mind. You know, is SIA technical?
You'll come last. Let's give
Yeah.
you a chance.
Oh, okay. We'll accommodate you. Honorable Mudise.
Oh, thank you very much, Chairperson, and let me greet your co-chair and Deputy Minister, Department, and my colleagues. Chairperson, I had two questions, but the other one was asked. Let me go straight to the one that I left with. I wanted to know if all the money that was allocated to South African Airways will enable the airline to start its own operation free from any financial burden like previously, or liabilities, or there will be an outstanding debt owed to the creditors after this all money that was allocated to them. The department is sure, they are sure. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mudise. Honorable Karim.
Thank you, Chairpersons. Chairpersons, I was wondering why we are, some of us seeking to polarize of privatization and state ownership. Why does it have to be either extreme? There are many forms of mixed ownership, and there are many forms of state ownership in the modern era. So I don't think it's either the extreme of privatization or the other extreme of full state ownership. Secondly, the way it comes across to me, at least, is that, certain services are crucial to the functioning of a state and its economy. And while it won't qualify to be like water or electricity, which, while encouraging public-private owner partnership, should never, in my view, And as I understand it, the view of the ANC, at least until now, you can't take basic needs and hand them over to the private sector, not in a country like ours. It'd be foolhardy. But even though travel will not qualify by any means to be equated with water and electricity and such basic needs, health and so on, education, it is very crucial. It's a strategic asset, a national airline, in a developing country particularly. And if you hand it entirely over to the private sector, I mean, that means relentlessly pursuing profits. The issue in me, it seems to me, is not whether one should have state ownership or not, of some measure or other, because it's not a monopoly here. In other words, SAA has lost so much of capital. I mean, moral and other capital. They've lost, in other words, so much that they're going to battle to win back a share of the market. And they're competing against several airlines that have been functioning ever since airlines were allowed to do so, with the COVID-19 restrictions being lifted. So they are going to compete in the market like any other airline. They will have to be commercially viable and successful, otherwise they're not going to get custom, and there's no money in the coffers of the state. So evermore, SAA is not going to be cushioned. Now, the government will be foolhardy not to learn the lessons of state ownership as we've had it in SAA until now. Look at the disaster we're in. But we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We shouldn't go to the opposite extreme. We need to find a balance between equity partnership, foreign presumably, South African private sector ownership, if that's possible at all, and some or other measure of state ownership. There are also formulations, as I understand it, the DM and the DG and all will know more, about where a state does own an entity, even if its ownership in monetary terms is minimal. So I really think this is too important an asset to hand over to the private sector. In any case, it has to operate by private sector norms and values, otherwise it's finished because, you know, these other airways, SAF Air and the other ones, Airlink and so on, are functioning, and they've won a lot of the market. People will have very little confidence in SAA when it starts again. So they'll have to be very, very commercially viable. The mistakes with state ownership, in our experience, are glaring. Poor appointments as board members, including the board chair that we know, Dudu Miyeni, poor appointments at CEO and so on. That in and of itself is the failure of government and the majority party and this parliament, to the extent we have a role. It's not a failure of state ownership. So, and state ownership, may I repeat, Chairperson, takes a million different forms. So let's not polarize this debate. Not for a country like ours, not for our low growth rates, not for our bizarre inequalities. We need it for trade routes and so on. Do you think the private sector is going to connect us to China and India if they don't see any profits in that? Or connect us to our fellow African countries if they don't see any profits in that? Well, in this case, they do apparently. Business class, it seems, derives a lot of profit, even for SAA on the African continent. So whatever the situation, I don't know the dynamics. I'm out of the loop on the mechanics and the operational and other tactical and strategic considerations. But I don't think we should polarize this debate. On the other hand, no one is fetishizing state ownership of SAA. And yes, the name should be South African Airways, even if it's 100% private sector owned. We need some sort of identity. If there's no South African Airlines, why must the state and parliament invest so much of energy? Once we've dispensed with our responsibilities as a state, why are we still here then? You know, because even if it's privately owned fully, which I hope it isn't, we must retain the name. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair, I don't know what's happening with the raise your hand.
Okay. Yes, I'll when I finish the hands, I will come to you, Co-Chair.
Okay.
You will be the last one. Yes. Honorable Ryder, is that question on the chat sufficient?
Yeah, Chair, look, let me give voice to it if you don't mind. Thanks for the opportunity to speak again. It's just on SIA Technical, and I mean in 2019, before COVID, SIA Technical was experiencing difficulties with their ability to service their customers' needs. And of course, we saw them losing a couple of customers. Comair specifically is the one that I know about, but I remember that there were others as well. And you know, now the fact that we're going back and we're considering funding them additionally, giving them additional funding at this stage. You know, one must ask, if we're going to save this entity, is it worth saving? So have they managed to improve their ability to service their customers, not only SIA, but SIA probably most importantly, to a point where if we do throw some money at them, look, I believe in terms of their salaries, and until they can fulfill their obligations, they need to get some degree of funding, whether we like it or not. But to continue funding them further, if they're not able to become self-sustainable through providing the level of service to their end users that they really should be doing in order to remain commercially viable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mkiva.
Good morning, Chairperson and Co-Chairperson. Thank you for the opportunity. Ngiyabona ukuthi iyathengiswa le SAA. Benifuna ubuza ke sihlalo ukuthi if uba ngaba iyathengiswa ingaba njenge-national carrier abantu baseMzantsi Afrika nabo bazakunikwa mhlawumbe ithuba lokuthi babe nesixa esisesabo njengenxalenye yabaniniyo. Andinoyixhasa ngokupheleleyo into yobana kuthiwa mayibekwe ezandleni zoswana sibomvana. Njengoba sitsho u-Honorable Karim, ingasifaka engxakini enkulu loo nto. Kuba siqinisekile into okokubana uba ngabe ingasezandleni zoswana sibomvane, ingenza into okokubana namaxabiso angafikeleleki kubemi beli lizwe. Okwesibini, kubekho imigomo esingakwaziyo ukuyindwendwela ngenxa yento okokubana abo bazawube bengabaniniyo ingaba bagqibayo uba makuhanjwe ngeliphi icala kungahanjwa ngeliphi icala. Bendifuna ubuza okwesibini okokubana ingaba zingaphi inqwelo ntaka ezikhoyo apho ezimileyo ngoku ezingasebenziyo eziyinxalenye yezinto eziphantsi kwentende yesandla se-South African Airways. Sahlulele kwezo zizezabo nezo zizezemboleko. Ndiyarhalela ukwazi uba zingaphi ezemboleko, zingaphi ezizeze-SAA ncakasana. Kwaye ngeli thuba zihleli nje ingaba ayizukwenza umonakalo loo nto kuzo. Kungani na into okokubana kungenziwa amacebo okubana zibe ziyasebenza ngeli thuba endaweni yokubana zibe zimisiwe. Okwesithathu, iyakrokrisa le nto okokubana sibone ezinye iinkomponi zophapho ziqhubekeka zisebenza, kodwa le yobuzwe ibe yona imisiwe. Iski ngathi le nto isidudulela kule nto siyibonayo okokubana kukho abantu abafuna uyityhilizela ekubeni uba ibe iyathengiswa. Siyarhalela ke into yokubana sikrotyiswe kuloo nto, ingaba eso sikrokro sisiso na okanye sikroka nje kuba ke sihleli kwilizwe labakrokri. Mandime kuloo ndawo mhlawumbi ngaphambili. Enkosi kakhulu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkiva. Before I hand over to Chair, Honorable Mkiva, did you raise a hand? The hand is still raised there, or was it the previous one? Or you are muted.
Are you calling me or Honorable Bibi?
Oh, I was checking whether the raise your hand, did you raise it now or was it previously?
No, I've raised my hands, Chair.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, on the presentation, there's a issue of a mango and a SAA, whereby it shows that SAA uzawuzala kabusha born again. I wanted to
Are you still there, Ma'am? I can't hear you. I don't know whether it's
She has freezed the chair.
okay.
check the issue of mango. It was going to the issue of SAA.
Okay. I
Chair,
don't know.
Yanizwa?
No, we did not capture very well your question.
Okay.
You can repeat it.
My question, Chair, is on SA and the mango. That SAA, it's look like is coming as a newborn baby now or born again. I wanted to check the issue of mango because one meeting we were having with the department when they present this issue of mango, it was the price of the ticket. I remember you asked them, is it all of you came with mango? All of them, bebengezanga ngumango. Bebegibelu SA, and they want people of South Africa to use umango. It's unfair, Chair. I want them to look this issue of mango. We are not satisfied with mango, and people, they don't like mango. Even myself, I don't like mango. So, and the price is the same as the SA. So I understand they make business, but they must think also about our money that we pay same price mango as the price that we are paying SA. So I wanted to check as they are bringing back SA, are they still going to bring back the mango? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm now handing over to you, Chair. You will look into the questions. I think from my side, I'm covered by honorable members. Just two quick issues. Is there an appetite on the strategic equity partners to invest? Is there an appetite by the strategic equity to invest? The other issue that I think there was no details, there is an issue of employees. They just put it as an employee issues. Can they categorize it, the ones that is still in court? Even if they can't respond on it, the employee issues must be categorized, put in writing, and be handed back to us at select committees, so that we understand what are the issues on employees. We must not just say pilots, courts. They must be categorized and really see what are the key issues there. Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Co-Chairperson, for the opportunity and the questions coming from the members. I just want to start by saying, as a mandate for the Appropriations Committee, we are responsible for the purse of the country. And the reason why we find ourselves in this meeting is because we have appropriated money for these entities, and we, as part of our mandate as an oversight body, we insisted that there should be conditions attached to this, because we felt that the previous years we've been giving these entities the bailout, and to me, let me not say to us, but for those who have worked with closely, we felt we are just putting money into a pitless hole, and there's no value for money. And in terms of us making sure that we are holding the executive accountable, we are making sure that government is doing what is necessary and there's value for money that we are appropriating. We insisted on the conditions that this money that needs to go there, we see the necessity, we understand the necessity, the need, but there should be conditions attached to those monies. So our concern was that, or our request was to unpack or to assure us as to whether the money that was given to or was allocated to SAA or in these other entities, were they spending the money according to the conditions? Because one of the conditions was that you are not going to give them the 10-something million or billion rands at a go as a lump sum. You will be giving them as per need. I'm just saying this so that we don't go to operational issues of the department, because we have our sister department, our sister select committee that is going to be able to oversight on this department in as far as operational matters, but also on the budget is concerned. So my take is that most of the issues, or few of the issues that I wanted to raise, members were spot on them to operate that, even though we were tempted. It's very difficult to hold yourself not to go to operations, because the operations are the ones that are directed the money, or they are implemented as per the budget that is allocated to them. That is my question, Chairperson. I also want to find out from the colleagues, team appropriations, do we have, I think the past two meetings that we had of finance and appropriations, we had an issue of interpretation. Do we have the interpretation facilities here? Honorable Mkiva was speaking in Xhosa and deep Xhosa.
I could only hear.
We don't have. So I will please allow me, honorable members, to take an advantage.
I can translate for you, Chairman.
I know. I don't want your translation.
In simple terms, what Honorable Mkiva was saying, he didn't say much.
Can you meet Nana?
Don't
please?
want your translation.
No. I don't want you to translate. I rather humble myself and request the DM to translate in brief what Honorable Mkiva is saying, because we want all the members and the participants on this platform and the public to understand. And Honorable Mkiva is very passionate about this, and this is what we must encourage, that we represent the public. Our constituency must hear and understand what we are saying here. Also in line with the debate of using mother tongue in schools. So with that, Honorable Co-Chairperson, I think I will start by requesting the Minister to just interpret, summarize what the Honorable Mkiva has said. You will come at the end, Honorable Minister. I'm taking advantage of you.
Or Coach, while you will be responding, you can be able to interpret as well, to say those were the issues, rather than to interpret and then response.
Okay. The reason why I want him to interpret first is that maybe some of the things that he has raised, they need treasury for response.
Oh yes. Okay. No,
yeah,
no, that's fine.
yeah. I know he will come to the end, but Brian, I will take that
All
up.
right.
Thank you,
No,
TM.
thank you. No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Summarily, Honorable Kiva was making an observation that it would appear SAA is being sold. To that effect, he was inquiring whether or not will the people, the majority, be offered an opportunity to participate or to take some form of ownership of that which is being sold, which of course he indicated is not supporting that option if it were to be pursued, assuming that was the correct observation he was making. Secondly, he wanted to know of the available assets that are belonging to SAA, are there any aircrafts? How many are they that are not flying as we speak, grounded? And I think the question was to do with what he considered suspicious, that it would appear as part of trying to sell off SAA, other airlines are allowed to fly when SAA is not flying. I think to him, he was really saying there is a very strong suspicion that that could be deliberate in order to see through the selling of SAA, according to him. Summarily, I think those were his concerns. He wanted to know what the true position is of the department. Of course, I didn't go to the other matters, but in the main, I think that's the gist of the issues he was really speaking to. And Chair, if I may then proceed.
Before you proceed, Minister, do you want to respond to these issues, or the DG start first and then you come last?
Fine. I will invite the DG, having just dealt with the matters I could deal with, and then get the DG and the team to come. I will obviously.
Okay.
Yes, before Chair.
Yeah, before you hand over to you, DM, there's something that I forgot, and you reminded me as you give the briefing of what or a summary of what Honorable Mkiva is saying. I need to declare that as a person, as a public rep, with the background that one has, I'm 100% anti-privatization, because I don't understand how privatization is going to assist, because we're talking about partnerships here. But it talk about privatization, in a way, we are going to something that we are trying to fight. I'm totally against privatization. I'm pro anti-privatization. Thank you, Honorable DM. You can take the platform.
Yes, Chair. I was saying that I will just deal with more broad issues, perhaps of policy and overall direction. But the DG and the team, I think amongst the team, I've seen Miss Noni Mashika. The DG will then determine who else comes in to really speak to the detail that has been raised here. Let me just say at the onset, regarding the business rescue process, the acting DG did say that where there was substantial progress that was recorded in terms of the implementation of the rescue plan, the business was found to have recovered much that it could exit the business rescue process. So that was an indication of progress that has been made. insofar as the rescue plan. And that notice of substantial progress that was filed then exited formally the company from the business rescue process. It meant that it was then ready to get back to business again, which would be accompanied by a lot other things. I think the other critical element of that rescue plan was the process of identifying and finding a strategic equity partner. Again, in respect of that, first, there were expressions of interest that were requested, which was a public process, which was open to anyone to express interest. As the DG has correctly stated, that process is near the end now, because from those who expressed interest, a lot of detailed engagement with their propositions, due diligence, verification, validation of some of the claims made, has actually led us to a point where we could say in the next 6 to 8 weeks, that process would have been concluded, because it has gone quite advanced to be at a point where a decision could be arrived at. There is, however, a matter that has been raised, I think, even in the portfolio committee, in the select committee, about what is perceived to be exorbitant amounts that were paid for the work by the business rescue practitioners. I think we were at the point where that we were to come back to the committee. In fact, I think the suggestion is that even the Appropriations Committee needs that information, that we put together, because there is a sense that some of the items of expenditure with respect to consultancy work has been quite exorbitant. I think we have to just make sure a report to that effect is made available to the committee. In the same way, I think the Honorable Co-Chair is saying, in respect of the employee matters, if they could be delineated, categorized, so that in respect of each of the amounts that are referred to as outstanding employee matters, a report to that effect can be made available. I would submit that. We would be happy to do that so as to provide the committees with enough information as to what is entailed in such amounts. It's only fair to say that we equally share the concern that where there is money meant for payment due to employees, we would also be very much uncomfortable with that not reaching employees at the earliest possible time. Certainly, in the practical world, there would be disputes occasioned by either this or that ill-feeling on the part of either the employer or the employees. And when there is a dispute, there is a legal process in which that dispute has got to be resolved. And again, where there are monies that have not yet been paid owing to such, I think the report can be able to really lay bare what is outstanding and to who in that respect. And then regarding SAA flying again, I can just say the preparations are quite advanced. And certainly in respect of being responsible, I think the concerns that were raised by the honorable member, who's also a pilot in his other life, there would definitely be serious concerns in respect of having pilots flying not prepared, not ready, because the issues of safety of the passengers are quite important. And I don't think we would be in favor of just getting anyhow without taking due regard insofar as those provisions. So yes, where there is that concern, part of preparing to be airborne again would include all those elements to be taken care of. The issue of the strategic equity partner, primarily, it was meant to assist with the injection of financial injections that must be made there, including some expertise that over time we have lost in the enterprise. So the strategic equity partners will also add value in the sense of bringing that which is not available or accessible through the public sector at the moment. Will SAA be flying under the banner SAA? For all intents and purposes, there's not been any intention, even as we talk the engagement with the strategic equity partner, that there is any intention of flying in any other name other than SAA. It has not really come about that matter. Yes, there is appetite on the part of the SCP, strategic equity partners. There have been some very, very good persons, companies that came to the fore expressing interest in this partnership, and that is under consideration as I speak. So, Chair, having said that, I think the team owes the committees a lot more detail insofar as some of the specific questions that were raised. And in this respect, with your permission, if the DG can advise on how best then they will deal with those. I know there's a team that works on this on a full-time basis that is part of this. So with your permission, Chair, the DG can then come on board.
Okay. DG.
Thank you, DM, and thank you to the chairperson. I'll deal with some of the questions, and then the team members will also deal with other questions that have been raised. If we look at Honorable Ryder's question, whether the amount that has been ring-fenced for the outstanding salaries, whether that is enough, yes, that is sufficient to cover the outstanding salaries and also the voluntary severance packages for both the pilots and the cabin crew. So calculations have been done in that regard, and that amount of 0.8 billion is sufficient to cover for that. Now, the update on the issue of the settlement with the pilots, which have been raised by a lot of honorable members, SAA and the pilots are near getting a settlement on this issue. The only outstanding issue really is the amounts that pilots are requiring for the termination of the regulating agreement, and also for the payment of a period where they were under lockout, because they are challenging the legality of the lockout in the courts. So they are saying they need to be paid for those months that SAA had locked them out, and also they would like to be paid for terminating the regulating agreement. And once there is a meeting of minds on those two issues, then a settlement agreement can be signed and payments can be made to the pilots. And I understand from SAA that that is at an advanced stage, and we expect that a settlement will be concluded quite quickly. On the issue of the working capital, is the 2 billion enough? I wish it was 2 million, but is the 2 billion sufficient? The strategic equity partner will also contribute to the working capital of SAA. That is the discussions that we are having with whoever is going to be the strategic equity partner, so that it can make a capital injection into SAA in addition to the 2 billion that has been reserved for that. On the issue of unfloor ticket liability, the team will address that. But also on the issue of SAT, Honorable Ryder, that's why we require this allocation, so that SAT is able to get the space when they require it, so that they are able to do the maintenance work that they are required to do. So once this allocation, this money is being transferred to them, they'll be able to do the maintenance work that they are required to do. Now, on the Honorable Bebe's question, whether there will be too much reliance on the fiscus, as I indicated, the SCP will have to make a capital injection into SAA, so that there is no strain on the fiscus, because government has already contributed in terms of paying all the outstanding liabilities. So the SCP must contribute to the cost of restarting the newborn again SAA. Now, on the question on when are we going to be flying, The board and management of SAA are preparing for the resumption of operations. And one of the issues that they are going to be looking at, Honorable Outcome, is the regulatory compliance with civil aviation regulations to ensure that the safety and security requirements are adhered to. SAA has been known as a very safe airline, and we need to maintain that record. So we are not going to be compromising on the issue of safety. They've got to do a market re-entry strategy, but also as part of the restructuring of the subsidiaries to make sure that they are aligned to the restarting of SAA. Whether the amount for Mango is sufficient, Honorable Ngwenya, there's a lot of debt at Mango that needs to be paid, and that money will have to cover that. But also the board will have to look at what is required for the future sustainability of Mango, which is a process that the interim board and management assist with. I think the issue of the cost of the BR practitioner, the deputy minister has dealt with it. But I think this is really a sore point, given the amount of time and money that has been spent on this. And we are looking at ways in which we can address this. But as DM has indicated, we will do a written report to the committee on this matter. On the progress on the implementation of the business rescue plan, there is what is called a receivership that has been set up to pay the outstanding liabilities, which are the amounts that has to be paid to the aircraft lessors, and also the issue of the unfloating liability. So those outstanding liabilities will be paid through what is called a receivership. So instead of having a business rescue process continuing until the next 3 years, a receivership was set up just to pay the outstanding liabilities and to clean up SAA in line with the business rescue plan. So the 2 receivers have been appointed, and they are undertaking the process of paying for the outstanding liabilities for the next 3 years. Honorable Arnolds, are we going to ensure that money is not wasted? Yes, we are going to exercise our shareholder rights as the shareholder to ensure that we monitor how the money is spent and make sure that SAA accounts for the public money that has been transferred to it. So that will be done. And as I indicated, the board is busy with the plan on the restructuring of the subsidiaries. On Honorable Outcome's question, the team will come in and give me more flesh to this, but training of pilots is quite important. Before they fly, there's required training and hours that they must have done. And I can assure you that SAA makes sure that before a pilot gets into that aircraft, that he has the necessary training and the hours for that. The issue of the salary dispute, I think I've indicated where we are on that matter. The issue of the receivership, I've already covered on that issue. But also to clarify on the strategic equity partner, they are not taking the whole shareholding of SAA. Government as a shareholder will still retain a certain percentage in SAA. Of course, I can't give the details given that the negotiations are at an advanced stage, but government is expected to hold a certain shareholding in this born again SAA. Thank you very much, and I'll ask the team just to cover the issues that I have not covered.
Good morning to the co-chairs and to the honorable members. My name is Noni Mashika. I sit within the aviation team within the department. I will be covering the issue of the BSPs. In terms of the voluntary severance packages, a total of...
I'm sorry, madam, can you open your video, please?
Okay, let me open.
We can't see you. Mema Kwabe.
She's muted.
Oh,
I think she's trying to put on the video.
Okay. Yes.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, visible.
Yes. So in terms of the VSPs, we've got a total of 3,250 employees that have actually taken the VSP within the airline. And of those, management has been about 269 managers. Pilots is about 222 pilots that have taken the VSPs. And ground staff is about 1,732. And we've got 1,027 of the cabin crew that have also taken the VSPs. The issue on the Voyager, what I would like to highlight in terms of Voyager is the fact that the Voyager program will remain in place within the airline, especially considering that there are over 1 million passengers that are a part of the Voyager program and have been aligned to it for quite some time. Therefore, as the airline resumes its operations in the next coming few months, the redemption of the Voyager miles or Voyager program will fall in line with the airline's resumption of its operations. So that is an issue that has been considered to make sure that the mileage that was accrued over time is not lost by any of the members within the Voyager program. And in terms of the pilots, I think it's important to highlight the fact that pilot training forms a very integral part of the overall ecosystem of the training for the airline. And for any airline operator, it's quite critical that they make sure that from a training perspective, all pilots meet what we call in aviation the cats and cars, which is the civil aviation technical standards and also the civil aviation regulations. Therefore, the SAA, as it prepares for a resumption of operations and also as it looks at its operations going forward, it has to make sure that the training perspective, including the overall ecosystem of the airline, meets the safety regulations and also standards of the National Civil Aviation Authority within the country, but also looking at the other civil aviation authorities such as the Federal Aviation Authority and also the European Aviation Authority, where the airline will continue to operate not only the local destinations, but also international destinations. So as we look at the pilot training, we will be considering it along the lines of making sure that those standards are met and also making sure that from a training perspective, the pilots have the right proficiency levels, they have the right aptitude, and also have the right experience. And on average, the SAA pilot has over about 18 years of experience in the different aircraft operations. So I think that's quite critical to reassure the public that the SAA operation, we will make sure that it meets the right safety standards going forward. And the other issue that was raised was Voyager I've covered, pilots I've covered, and the VSPs. I think that's all from my side, Chair, and thank you very much, DM.
Okay, Edwin, is there more that you need to add on Jackie before we hand over back?
Yes, yes, I'll add on the two questions. Good morning, co-chairs. Good morning, honorable members. The two questions that I'll deal with on unflown ticket liability and the guarantee debt. And just before I proceed, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Edwin Besa. I'm a financial analyst within the department focusing on the transport sector, SOCs. So on the issue of unflown ticket liabilities, there are quite a number of tickets that needs to be refunded. And at the moment, with the reduced staff within the finance unit, there are only 10 people that are dealing with all the finance matters. So they have to be very careful that they do not pay the passengers twice, because in terms of payments, the passengers can either be paid through a refund of their credits, the purchase of the tickets that was done through a credit card, and that is done by reversing the transaction, and then the other one is to pay them cash. So they have to make sure that before they make the payment to any passenger, that the passenger has not already been paid. So the process is taking quite a bit of time, but they're continuing with the process to make sure that everyone that needs to be paid is paid and that there are no duplicates of payments. And then on the issue of the total guaranteed debt, At the moment, government exposure to SAA is 6.4 billion that still need to be paid, and everything else has been paid. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. That is all from our side.
National Treasury.
Chair, thank you very much. I will ask Part 2 to start answering the questions, and the outstanding ones I'll just sweep at the end. Thanks. Part 2.
Good morning, Chairs. Good morning, Deputy Minister. Good morning, colleagues from the Department of Public Enterprises. I know Edwin has touched a little bit on the government guaranteed debt and the exposure, but I thought maybe let me just expand on it a little bit more. And I think it's important that I elaborate that the debt that I'm talking about is a debt is outside the business rescue plan and was raised before SA was placed under business rescue. In terms of government guaranteed loans, Edwin has said that there is 6.4 billion that still needs to be paid, and that's government exposure. But this has been provided for in the 2020 MTF. 10.3 billion was paid last year. There is 4.3 billion that will be paid in this financial year, and 1.8 billion that will then be paid in 2022-23. How we've mitigated against any further fiscal risk was through the conditions that Advocate Makobe has raised, particularly that the guarantees available will be reduced by the amount of the recapitalization, and that no additional government guaranteed debt will be raised. So in this case, the ultimate goal would be for the airline to be able to raise funding on the strength of its own balance sheet and pay any debts or operational obligations that it has from the cash generated from its obligations. Then there was a question on other government guaranteed obligations, and these are obligations that are not specifically related to debt and loans. There has been a mention of unflown ticket liabilities and letters of credit. So the government guaranteed exposure to unflown ticket liabilities at the moment stands at about 768 million, and the letters of credit and financial guarantees at about 255 million. So together these amount to just over $1 billion. These remain contingent liabilities of the state. However, the business rescue plan provides that these will be settled. Edwin just touched on the fact that there will be some refunds, and how we've mitigated against these risks is that in the condition we've stated that any unutilized government guarantees will be reduced, and that no additional funding will be raised utilizing government guarantees. So what we're going to continue to do is, together with the DPE and SAA, is monitor and get them to quantify what exposure is. And as that exposure is reduced, we're going to reduce the guarantees that are available. Although these remain a contingent liability of the state, we do not expect that any fiscal funding will go in the settlement of these. Then there was a question on hedging and fuel hedges. Chairpersons, let me first start by stating that hedging practices are within the purview of the specific company, and it is purely an operational matter whereby SAA would identify the key risks that it faces. As an airline, obviously it's fuel, and as an international airline, it would be fuel and forex. And they would use financial instruments to mitigate against these risks. SAA does not engage in hedging practices anymore, and the reason they have cited for this is that there's been a lack of expertise in that department. So the simple answer in terms of government guaranteed exposure to hedging is no. There are no guaranteed fiscal risks related to SAA hedging. And then there was a question on how do we as the National Treasury mitigate against any additional fiscal risks arising. So when we set guarantee conditions, the guarantee conditions are set as such that it allows us to have oversight of what the entities are doing, and it allows us to be able to mitigate against those risks. So in terms of SAA, the guarantee conditions and conditions that have been attached to some of the appropriations state that the airline has certain weekly, monthly, quarterly reporting requirements and engagements that need to be held between SAA, DPE, and National Treasury. The acting DG of DPE did allude to some of those. We have requested that those meetings commence, and they said they are in the process of organizing those. Also, what we have done previously is in the guarantee condition states that the shareholder compact, which would normally be entered into between the Minister of Public Enterprises and the board of the airline, needs to be entered into by the Minister of Public Enterprises, the Minister of Finance, and the board of the airline. What this allows us to do is in monitoring the activities of SAA and the key performance indicators and the specific strategies for a specific financial year, we're able to ensure that we try to ensure that they engage in activities that will be profitable, activities that will generate positive cash flows for the entity, and ultimately activities that will not result in additional requests to the fiscus being made. Then there was a question on whether SA has met all the conditions. The simple answer is no, they have not. But we've been trying to engage with the DPE in order to rectify this. SAA is now out of business rescue, so the custodianship has reverted back to the SAA board, and we are hoping to resume these engagements. And because we have not been, SA has not been reporting on the weekly and monthly basis like it's supposed to be, we have not had an overview of what the non-guaranteed obligations of SAA are looking like. So at the moment, we do not have a number with specifically related to the amount of non-government guaranteed debt that is on SAA's books. But in terms of the guaranteed debt, everything has been provided for in the fiscus. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Tsepiso.
Thank you, Patu. Thank you, Chair. And maybe just to conclude, there was a question also from Honorable Ryder on the unquantified risks. Obviously, the BRP has done their own risk analysis, DPE as well. But given the environment which we are operating within, certainly for the revenue assumed for SAA, there remains a risk given the COVID-19 pandemic, and also the fact that there are various waves that are being forecasted, and to the extent that that continues to have an impact on the aviation sector, that will certainly impact on SAA and other airlines. However, it is comforting that there is an SEP that is being looked at, and the process is unfolding. And Honorable Gordhan himself, Minister of Public Enterprises, has indicated on many occasions that beyond what has already been provided for by the fiscus, the fiscus would not be asked again to provide additional funding, and rather that the strategic equity partners will then come in to provide the necessary support. But as far as supporting the business rescue plan, as was required, the government has come to the party and played that role. So that, including the guarantees that have been paid down, would then reduce the pressure and the risk to the fiscus. However, there are definitely upside risk for a broader aviation sector including SAA as well. And the other question that were asked, I think they were operational from Honorable Nana, in terms of how do we deal with the reputational harm that has been caused to SAA. I think that the board, now that they do have the airline back, working with the shareholder and management, would need to work out on a plan, stakeholder engagement, and to reposition the airline to ensure that the reputational harm that was done, for the past period where SAA was not able to honor their obligations, have been in the news for all the, the wrong things, and also to ensure that, the business rescue stigma is dealt with, and SAA is placed on a path where, again, it can be a trusted airline. They would have their work cut out, Honorable Nana, to ensure that that is done. You further asked about the checks and balances, and what will Treasury do to ensure that those are in place. Honorable Nana, I would put it this way, that the Public Finance Management Act is very clear in terms of the roles and responsibility of the executives, the board, the shareholder, and also the oversight that is provided by the National Treasury. And Companies Act as well has very much entrenched in itself the requirements that the board ought to have in terms of the control and the control environment, to ensure that there is audit and risk and combined assurance that is being conducted within the entity. The important thing would also be the auditing by the external auditor for SAA, as we all know that the auditing had not happened in a while, and SAA had not provided their financials for several years prior to being placed under business rescue. So all that, working with the AG and working with the board, would need to come to the fore, and a lot of focus would need to be placed there, so that reliance can be placed on the numbers that and the financials that SAA would be releasing as a new airline. Honorable Karim made his view known around the banner in which SAA will fly, and I think that is really a government decision. I don't think it's something that as officials I can address. If government decides that it flies under the banner, so would be the case. Honorable Chairs, I think that deals with all the questions in the first round. I will hand over to you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. I think I can hand over back to you. There were quite a number of other questions that we said they could be dealt with in writing, and there is commitment from the VM that, yeah, back to you, Co-Chair.
Thank you very much, Co-Chairperson Martin. I've also in the chat room the commitment that other questions will come in writing, and we'll share them, and we, as appropriate, thank you very much. Initially, I thought we will be having you in the morning session, the first hour session, but I made to understand that you're willing to be with us. Before I go to the second session, members happy with the responses, or satisfied with the responses, and that the outstanding responses will have to come in writing. Remember, as appropriations, we have to deal with our report on this appropriation for this year. Can I check members? Can you move on?
Thanks, Chair. Ngwenya.
Yes, Honorable Ngwenya. House
Thanks
Chair.
very much, Chair. I hope my question have been answered. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Can you move to the next session of appropriations agenda on the appropriations and ask Lubabalo to flag the agenda?
Chairperson, before you move,
sorry.
Yeah, I don't want us to be part of your reports and everything. I will request that if the part that we were required to be part of is covered, we can be released as a committee, and okay. we allow you to deal with your own internal matters.
Okay, no problem, Honorable Chair, but I was just saying as a matter of courtesy, as colleagues, as comrades, those who would like to just be part of the meeting and observe, they are welcome, because this is—
Yes, those who can observe, because we also have our own internal issues that we need to deal with.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Maybe I can give you the opportunity to thank the meeting and say your goodbye on behalf of your committee.
No, thank you very much, Co-Chair, and to the honorable members. It was indeed a very interesting interaction that we had with appropriation. I'm hoping this will not be the last interaction in areas where the amounts that we have appropriated to our entities and you want us to be part of the sessions. We are ready to be available, and it was indeed a very interesting interaction. On areas that are operational, we'll be doing our oversight work with the department, and areas that we requested written responses. I hope the department, as well as National Treasury, where it affects them, they will also give those written responses. We'll continue to do our oversight work to ensure that money that has been appropriated to our department and entities is used efficiently and within the conditions that have been put forward for that money to be used. Thank you very much, and I really enjoyed my committee. I was part of this committee when the NCOP started. I was just back to my roots. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
We are your product, Honorable Co-Chairperson. We started together, and thank you. It was good to see you again, to be part of this session. Honorable members, DM, DG, Team Treasury, thank you so much for being with us when we seek clarity on these issues. When we do our oversight over the money that we appropriate. Thank you so much, and I really want to appreciate the cooperation that we received from Select Committee on Department of Public Enterprise and Communications. Thank you so much, honorable members. Thank you. The agenda, Lubabalo. We are, honorable members, on item number 3 now. No. We are on item number 5, sorry. Consideration of draft report on Appropriations Bill B4 2021. That's where we are now. And the report has been sent to members. And I know that members have gone through the report. Can we flag the report, Team Appropriation? This light, Mado will fight with me or shade. That's the first page, honorable members, of the report for Appropriations Bill B4 2021. Let's scroll to number 2, page 2. I just hope that members have identified areas they want to engage on, as we usually do. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Those are the recommendations that you have made, honorable members. We are on 8 now. Page 9. Still on the recommendations. That's the last page. Can I hear from the members, please? The team, support staff, team appropriations, please help me with the members that have indicated that they want to comment on the report. I can't see it from here. No member. Am I audible? You know,
yes,
it's first.
Yes, Chairperson, you are audible. The no member was raised.
There's no member.
Yes, maybe we might consider calling for a mover and a second chair. Members are fine with the quality of the report and the recommendations.
It's frustrating when members are not responding to me, like I'm talking alone.
No, maybe it's because we're operating from different areas, Chairperson. Sometimes communication gets
No, Chairperson, you are not alone. You are not alone.
Yeah, Chairperson, silence means consent on this matter. So we are happy.
Chairperson, you are not alone. Don't get scared. I'm here. Doesn't matter who else is here. Doesn't matter whether Dennis is here. I'm here.
Oh, come to it and Ryder.
Doesn't matter. I'm here.
No, it does.
Yeah, I think it's because we don't approve of all the way the money is spent.
Don't be a party pooper. Don't spoil the mood, Honorable Titoit. I'm still lucky and happy that I have voices. Can I call a mover for the adoption of the report, honorable members?
Honorable Chairperson, I move for adoption of the report.
Thank you, Honorable Mamarahane.
I second, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Karim.
The report.
Anyone?
And if you can note that the Democratic Alliance would like to reserve its position on the report, please.
Thank you, Honorable Ryder. Honorable Dwight. Now you can say what you want earlier.
Thank you, Chair. The Freedom Front Plus also reserve our position on the report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Tatem Letan.
EFF also reserve its position, Chairperson.
Okay, going to seek a mandate yet. Thank you very much, honorable members. The report has been adopted. Do we still have time to can deal with minutes, Lubabalo?
There's another report, Chair.
There's a second report, Chair.
Oh, the special appropriation, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The special appropriation, can you flag it on the screen, please? The first page is on the screen, honorable members. Second page. Third page. That was the last part, the last page of the second bill, the special bill that we're dealing with. Can I hear from the members? Special Appropriation Bill B5 2021. Can I hear from the members? Can I call for a mover for adoption? Honorable Karim, you said you are with me.
Very much. All right, I'll move. I didn't want to upset Zolani.
Chairperson, my name is
okay.
Eva. I'm the member of this committee in good standing. I move for the adoption.
You see, Chairperson, Zolani gets really, really upset when I precede him. So, you know, I was giving him space, but now you've undermined him. And he's a traditional leader. Remember, I'm the ordinary mortal.
He's not upset. We must just understand that Zolani is a Mbongi. So whenever he speaks, emphasize. I saw him on
the of the chairperson, yeah, and the nation.
Yes. Can I get a seconder for the second appropriation, special appropriations bill? Can I get a seconder?
I second, Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, madam. Mama Rakhane, are you seconding?
Honorable Mama Rakhane.
Thank you, Honorable Mama Rakhane. Can I hear Honorable Ryder?
Thank you, Chair. In a surprise twist, the Democratic Alliance would like the committee to note that it is reserving its position on this report at this stage.
Honorable Tutoit, thank you, Honorable Ryder.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The Freedom Front Plus also reserve our position.
Thank you, Honorable Tutoit. Ntatem Letan.
Chairperson, EFF also reserves its position.
Thank you, Ntate. The agenda again, let me not do the same mistake. The pilot is quiet today. Do we still have time, Lubabalo, that we can deal with minutes?
Yes, Chairperson, we do. It won't take us long, Chair. Thank you.
Can you flag the minutes, please? The first page of attendees, the minutes is of the 2nd of June, 2021. That's the first page, attendees. Second page. That's the third page. Page number 4. 5 now. 6 now. We are on 6. 7 is the last page. Can I get a member to move for adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of the discussion of the 2nd of June 2021? Can I get a mover?
Chairperson, allow me to move for the adoption of these minutes because they are a true reflection of that meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Ndiyabulela Mkiva. Can I get a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Was that Honorable Titoit?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, honorable members. I think we have come to the end of our meeting. Let me take this opportunity once more, honorable members, for your forever cooperation. We know we differ in terms of ideas and views, but we are, as responsible public reps, to be able to manage and find each other. I just want to say that please keep it up. Let's work for the nation. Let's work for the voters that has voted for us. Let's together hold the executive accountable and never forget our mandate as public reps. Please take care. We will be meeting in the house. I think there's a plenary. Honorable Ryder, last time I said there's a plenary and it was changed. Sure. Thank you very much. We'll meet during the plenary at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, honorable members. Please take care and stay well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Karim. Eunice.
Hello, Babalo. Yes, man. Hey, I'm really struggling, man. But
hello, Tata. Yes,
I'm in the meeting.
Yeah. Yes, Tata. Haja kutakubona utawakwazi ungena Tata. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Tata.
Hello. Hello.